President Mwai Kibaki's State of the Nation address turned out to be a self-delivered report card on his 2 terms presidency. He goes into the country's history books as the president who led the country into the Second Republic. Kibaki midwifed the new constitution, making amends of the 2005 flopped referendum.
The enactment of our constitution 2 years ago was an important milestone in our nation's history. Our Second Republic was born after many and successful attempts spanning over a 20-year period.
In his State of the Nation address, Kibaki swiftly moved to implore Parliament to fast-track the Constitution implementation process to underpin the Constitution's significance to its legacy. Analysts say that the new Constitution was the highlight of Kibaki's presidency and that the reform process is an imprint in Kibaki's legacy.
The time for reforms had come. I think Kibaki's presidency and style of leadership was timely. It came in at the right time because a country has also a life cycle. There's time when some degree of dictatorship is required, and there's a time when some degree of freedom is also required.
An economist, President Mwai Kibaki will also be credited for the country's economic growth from a low of 0.8% in 2003 to above 7% in 2007. But the election turmoil of 2008 caused a nosedive in the economic growth rate. Kibaki was also a trailblazer in the development of infrastructure sector, with major highways going through radical facelifts.
If you compare the huge, massive differences. For instance, when he came in, I think we were raising about 200 billion shillings in tax, but now they're raising more than 700 billion per year. And that's a huge, significant achievement. So he has a right kujigamba.
The free primary education was his baby and has received critical acclaim the world over, including from UNICEF. It is a scorecard that the next chief executive of the country will toil to maintain.
Serious leader must invest in the education of the children, because through education, then you can instill the national values.
But Kibaki's style of leadership and politics took the country by surprise. He adopted a laid-back style in politics and behind-the-scenes control of the nation, preferring his agenda to be seen in action rather than words.
I would situate most of his achievements in the things that were planned and happened in NAC 1, in his first administration between 2003 and 2007. Post-2007, things have become a little bit more difficult to examine because of the complexity surrounding the previous election and subsequent problems which are largely political as a result of having a coalition government.
But the president sanctioned an incursion into Somalia to flush out the Al-Shabaab militants that have staged cross-border attacks to weaken the country's economy. It is the first time Kenyan troops moved across border to protect the country's sovereignty.
I commend our men and women in uniform for their bravery and sacrifice as they confront these criminals.
To forever taint his legacy, it is under President Mwai Kibaki's watch that the country plunged into its worst political violence. This was followed by the opening up of the post-election violence cases at the International Criminal Court. To salvage this murky image, Kibaki has convinced the East Africa community to support a push to have the cases referred back to the East Africa Court of Justice.
The president has not been known to be delving into matters that would be considered to be controversial. The fact that he inserted some reference to those cases is significant in my view.
Kibaki has also not succeeded so well in as far as preaching cohesion and integration. You realize that the post-election violence that happened in this country in 2008 was largely because there was a perception that the government was not all-inclusive.
He has made his contribution to building the nation, and as he prepares for his exit, Kibaki leaves behind a crowded presidential field. A departure from his predecessors, Kibaki seems non-committal in anointing his successor.
I also assure Kenyans of a smooth transition to the new leadership that they will elect in the forthcoming general election.
But Kenyans will also miss his sense of humor in delivering off-the-cuff speeches. Sam Ogina for Spotlight 2012.